Okay folks, buckle up. Today on the Mysteria archive, we're delving deeper into CERN and how it might be affecting our consciousness and our dreams. Get ready for a wild ride. What if the biggest science experiment on Earth didn't just unlock the mysteries of the universe, but rattled something deep inside us? Since CERN's Large Hadron Collider switched on, people have reported more than just déjà vu. They've woken up from vivid dreams, tunnel dreams, portal dreams. They've lost time, felt distant, woken suddenly at exactly 3:33 AM with no explanation. Something's off. Could smashing particles at near light speed send shockwaves through the very fabric of consciousness? Are we witnessing quantum research or brushing against the edges of the soul? We thought they were just smashing atoms, but what if CERN has been shaking something far more delicate, your inner reality? Welcome to the mystery of the soul code. Okay, right out of the gate, yes, we're going full weird today. Now, CERN might have dinged reality like a tuning fork, and somehow your dreams got caught in the echo. But before we get lost in timelines and portals, let's just appreciate this. We're talking about a science lab built to answer deep cosmic questions, and the internet decided it might have cracked simulation accidentally. Now, I'm not saying I personally wake up at 3:33 AM because of a particle collider, but I'm also not saying I don't stare at my microwave clock like it's taunting me. Let's just say, if physics had a fan fiction section, this would be it. So, grab your tinfoil tiara, we're jumping into the deep end, starting with a brain twister that stumped scientists for decades. What exactly is consciousness? The science of consciousness, and what we still don't know. Here's the thing. They can measure your heartbeat, map your brainwaves, and scan every inch of your neural network. But no one can explain how all that machinery becomes you. Welcome to what scientists call the hard problem of consciousness. It's not about how the brain functions, it's about how it feels. What makes you aware? What's the you behind your eyes? Some researchers like Roger Penrose and Hameroff suggest that the answer lies beneath the neurons, deep in the quantum world. They argue consciousness may arise from quantum processes inside microtubules, tiny structures in your brain cells. If they're right, and consciousness is partly quantum, then colliding particles at high energies, like CERN does, might not just reveal particles, it might ripple through the very substrate of thought. Now, throw in Cymatics, the study of how vibration shapes matter. When sound passes through sand or water, it forms patterns, geometries. And what happens when CERN unleashes energy bursts billions of times stronger? Could those shakes be tuning our consciousness? Teilhard de Chardin's Noosphere theory imagined a global mind, an emergent field of shared consciousness connecting all human thought. The Princeton Global Consciousness Project even detected statistical blips in random number generators during emotional global events, suggesting human minds may be subtly entangled. If true, then CERN's massive energetic pulses could be interfering with that field, like static in a spiritual radio. And then there's reality tunneling, a concept from Robert Anton Wilson and Discordian thought. It suggests our beliefs form filters, reality tunnels, that shape what we perceive. What happens when a machine digs through those tunnels? What if, instead of smashing protons, CERN accidentally poked a hole through perception itself? The science is speculative. The implications, wild, because if consciousness really is quantum, then CERN might be shaking more than particles. It might be rattling the soul code. All right, so apparently my brain isn't just a soggy supercomputer. It might be a quantum jukebox, and CERN's the guy playing it like a cosmic DJ. Honestly, if the soul is built on subatomic code, we're all one gamma ray burst away from forgetting how to toast bread. And Cymatics? Have you seen this stuff? You play a note and sound does yoga. Imagine what happens when CERN hits their base stop. Also, the Noosphere, a global thought field. So we're basically neural nodes on the planet's group chat now. Just hope whoever's moderating the channel knows how to mute the chaos, or at least delete those weird timeline memes. Look, we're still in speculation land, but science hasn't ruled it out. And if they're messing with the foundations of consciousness, maybe we should be asking, what's shaking, and why does it feel like the universe just side-eyed me? Timeline shift versus consciousness desync. You've probably heard of the Mandela Effect. You know, the classic. Was it Berenstain Bears or Berenstein? Did the Monopoly Man used to have a monocle? Spoiler, Apparently, he never did. Now, most chalk this up to false memory, but here's the twist. What if it's not the timeline that's shifted? What if it's you? Some researchers and a lot of internet sleuths suggest that what we're experiencing isn't a timeline fracture, but a consciousness desynchronization. CERN's massive bursts of energy, especially during the LHC's peak test cycles, might not be tearing space-time, but rattling the fragile links between the individual and shared reality. Imagine consciousness as a kind of frequency, resonant, interconnected across a soul network. What if the LHC's collisions created enough interference to detune us? Suddenly, your memory diverges slightly from everyone else's, not because reality changed, but because your anchor to it did. And this is where quantum mechanics peaks in. In superposition, particles exist in multiple states at once, until observed. Now, imagine consciousness entangled across multiple possibles, and something forces a collapse. What if CERN didn't open a portal, it forced a decision tree to snap shut? The observer effect tells us that the act of observing changes the outcome. But what if the scale of the LHC's experiments amplified that effect globally? In essence, we might not be remembering wrong. We might be remembering right, just from the version of us that's no longer in charge. So, while the Mandela Effect might look like innocent nostalgia quirks, what if it's evidence of something deeper? Not a glitch in the matrix, but a desync between who you are and the version of reality we're now stuck in. Alright, so maybe the Monopoly man never had a monocle, or maybe he did, in the version of this simulation that ran before lunch. Honestly, I feel like we're all experiencing spiritual lag, like when your video call freezes, but it's just that you didn't load right. Now, let's not even get started on Febreze with one E, that one still haunts me. But the big idea here isn't about misremembered logos. It's that if CERN's energy outputs are subtly scrambling consciousness alignment, then we might all be running slightly different bills of reality, like reality version 12.6, hotfix no monocle edition. Wild, absolutely. But this whole idea of desync explains a whole lot better than just blaming memory, because if your consciousness fell out of tune, you'd never even know it happened. Unless, of course, your cereal box suddenly looks suspiciously unfamiliar. The sleep glitch phenomenon. Why are we dreaming of portals? Let's talk about dreams. Since CERN first fired up, anecdotal reports of strange sleep experiences have exploded across Reddit, TikTok, and late-night forums. People waking up in cold sweats at exactly 3:33 a.m. Reports of shared dreams, long metal tunnels, spinning rings of light, labs buried underground. These aren't your standard "I forgot my pants at school" dreams. They're vivid, detailed, and eerily similar. In some stories, strangers describe identical dream landscapes, despite never having met. Others claim to have met each other in dreams, described one another accurately afterward, and shared the same sequences of events. Coincidence? Maybe. Or are our subconscious minds turning into something shared? There's also the concept of liminal spaces, dream locations that feel eerily familiar, but don't exist in the waking world. Abandoned malls, infinite hallways, dim fluorescent rooms with no clear origin. Could these be echoes of places in a different reality, or bleed-throughs from altered states of consciousness? Now here's where it gets weirder. Some sleep researchers have proposed that external fields like EMFs or frequency bursts can influence dream states. And CERN? It generates massive electromagnetic pulses during testing. What if these pulses don't just affect equipment, but the mind? Could our dreams be reflecting a resonance effect from the LHC's energetic signature? And what about those odd dream overlaps? If consciousness is indeed partly quantum, maybe dreams are where that quantum field gets the loudest. Some even speculate that in our sleep state, untethered from linear thought, we may be more receptive to interdimensional noise. If that's true, then maybe dreams are the decoder ring, and we've just been missing the signal. Okay, quick show of hands. Anyone else wake up at exactly 3:33 a.m. for no reason? Because if it's just me, I'm either haunted or CERN's using me as a Wi-Fi hotspot. The shared dream stuff? That's where things get creepy. It's one thing to have weird dreams, but when other people report the same dream, now we've crossed the line into "are you in my brain" territory. And these liminal dream spaces, they're like IKEA stores from another dimension. You recognize the lighting, but you're pretty sure no one ever leaves. Look, I don't know if CERN is beaming dream hacking frequencies or if we're all just tired. But when strangers describe the same tunnels and portals, it makes you wonder if sleep is where the real story is being played out. Either that, or we all need to lay off the late-night Reddit scrolls. The Pineal conduit theory, ancient belief meets modern physics. Long before quantum physics and colliders, ancient cultures believed that the soul had a gateway, a physical point of connection between the body and the unseen. That gateway? The pineal gland. Tucked deep in the center of the brain, this tiny pinecone-shaped organ has been revered for millennia. The Egyptians depicted it as the Eye of Horus. Descartes called it the seat of the soul. Eastern traditions linked it to the third eye, your spiritual radar. Modern science tells us the pineal gland regulates sleep cycles by producing melatonin. But fringe theorists believe it does more. That it acts like an antenna, tuning us into layers of reality we usually can't perceive. Now, let's talk resonance. The Earth itself vibrates at a frequency called the Schumann resonance, around 7.83 Hz. Some believe our brains are naturally entrained to this frequency. So, what happens when a machine like CERN starts firing off massive energy bursts right near that range? There's a theory that particle collisions at CERN produce frequencies that may subtly entrain or interfere with this pineal tuning. It's like someone fiddling with the cosmic radio while your soul is trying to find a signal. Even more curious, CERN's massive circular collider loops underneath 26 towns in France and Switzerland. And some of them, researchers note, are located along ancient ley lines, supposed energetic highways linked to sacred sites and mystical phenomena. Coincidence? Maybe. But fringe theorists ask, was CERN deliberately placed where energy flows were already dense? Could the collider, whether intentionally or not, be amplifying or warping natural Earth harmonics? If Earth hums, and the human soul hums with it, what happens when you crank the bass? Could the pineal gland, this ancient spiritual receiver, be overwhelmed by the volume? And if so, are we awakening something deeper, or just short-circuiting the soul? Okay, so if this pineal gland really is a cosmic antenna, mine is definitely picking up some weird channels. Like, I'm out here trying to sleep and suddenly I've got interdimensional weather radio on full blast. But seriously, this section ties ancient wisdom with modern science in a way that's hard to ignore. I mean, Descartes and Egyptian hieroglyphs were basically saying, hey, this tiny brain pinecone is important, long before particle colliders were even a thing. And the Schumann resonance stuff, that's spooky. It's like the Earth is a heartbeat and CERN might be thumping on it like a dubstep DJ. Also, 26 towns and ancient ley lines, that's either a planning coincidence or someone had a very specific checklist when they broke ground. Whatever it is, it kind of makes you want to wear a tin hat with a built-in tuning fork, just in case. D-Wave, AI consciousness, and the parallel mind hypothesis. Now, let's crank the weird up a notch. Meet D-Wave, a quantum computing company that claims their machines can access parallel realities. Their CEO once said that when the computer runs, you're interacting with the shadows of other universes. No pressure. So, what happens when you combine CERN, smashing particles at nearly the speed of light, with quantum computers like D-Wave, designed to explore other dimensions? Some theorists believe the two are creating an accidental feedback loop, synchronizing consciousness across versions of self in the multiverse. Ever felt déjà vu so strong you swore it was real? Ever felt that sudden emotional drift, like you were grieving something that didn't happen, or remembering a future that never occurred? TikTok is full of videos just like this. People recalling lives they know they lived, careers, relationships, homes that don't exist. Could these be bleed-throughs? Crosstalk from another you in a reality that got too close. There's even the quantum suicide thought experiment, where in one universe you die, but in another your consciousness continues. What if we're brushing against those survival echoes? And then there's the strange surge of UFO activity post-2012, right after the LHC hit its stride. Now, some speculate we didn't invite attention, we triggered it, that by poking the dimensional barrier, we pinged something on the other side. Non-human intelligences, not aliens from space, but minds from adjacent layers of reality, watching, listening, maybe even echoing back. If consciousness is quantum and the multiverse is real, then it's not just timelines that intersect, it's minds. So maybe that sense of unease, that chronic anxiety you can't place, maybe it's not just stress, maybe it's echoes from decisions you didn't make, from lives you didn't live, from you, just sideways. Okay, I'll admit it. My alternate self is out there living on a beach, sipping coconut lattes. I want in. But this whole parallel mind thing kind of makes deja vu feel like a spiritual FaceTime glitch. And D-Wave? I mean, when your CEO casually drops shadows of other universes, that's usually the part of the movie where someone gets possessed. Also, this theory that we're bleeding consciousness across dimensions is wild, but weirdly plausible if you've ever woken up with crushing nostalgia for a life you don't remember having. And the UFO uptick? Well, if I were a curious interdimensional tourist, I'd definitely peek in after we turned on the cosmic blender. At this point, I'm not sure if I'm me or just a patch update of me. Leaked rituals, symbolism, and the spiritual Cold War. In 2016, a strange video surfaced online. It showed hooded figures gathering around a statue of Shiva, performing what appeared to be a ritual sacrifice. The setting? CERN's headquarters. The internet exploded. CERN quickly responded. It was a prank, a hoax by staffers. No harm, no foul. But the imagery stuck. And it ignited a deeper question. Why was a statue of Shiva the Destroyer, the Hindu god of creation and destruction, installed at the world's most powerful science facility? The official answer is symbolic. Shiva represents cosmic cycles, birth, death, rebirth, appropriate for a place recreating the Big Bang. But to fringe thinkers, it wasn't just a metaphor, it was a message. Some researchers point out how CERN's particle ring layout mirrors patterns from the Kabbalistic tree of life, a mystical framework of the universe's structure in esoteric traditions. Others draw comparisons to the Tower of Babel, humanity's attempt to breach heaven itself. Was CERN doing the same, reaching beyond its limits and paying a price in unintended consequences? Then there's the emotional impact. Following major LHC activation cycles, researchers tracking global emotional data, Google Trends, wellness surveys, even biometric wearables noticed strange patterns. Spikes in insomnia, anxiety, emotional dissonance. Something had shifted. People didn't feel right, not sick, just unmoored. Could these be psychological echoes of something bigger? And are the scientists at CERN just physicists, or, in some fringe sense, are they acting as modern priests? Rituals aren't always robes and chants. Sometimes they're machine calibrations and energy releases timed to precision. If belief is power and intention shapes outcome, then maybe, unknowingly or not, CERN is performing the most advanced spiritual experiment ever attempted. They're not summoning demons, but they might be poking holes in the veil, and that's a very different kind of ritual altogether. Okay. Hooded robes, midnight rituals, a giant Shiva statue, and the world's biggest science machine. Now tell me that doesn't sound like the pilot of a prestige streaming show. Now, CERN says it was a prank, and yeah, okay, maybe it was. Scientists get bored too. But when the setting is a billion-dollar collider and you're staging it in front of the literal god of destruction, you've got to know that people are going to raise questions. And this idea that particle physics is modern ritual. Kind of genius, because if you swap candles for code and incantations for algorithms, it's still a system built to alter reality. And whether it's spiritual or scientific, both aim at unlocking the unseen. So maybe the LHC isn't a doomsday device, but it might be the world's first sacred particle harmonizer, which is, somehow, even creepier. The real question: what are we tapping into? So, we've gone from quantum fields and dream portals to pineal antennas, ritual theory, and multiversal echoes. But now comes the most unsettling question. What are we actually tapping into? Because here's the thing. There's no scientific proof that CERN has altered reality, scrambled consciousness, or pulled back any cosmic curtain. But what has changed is us. Since the first LHC activations, the world has drifted. We're more connected than ever before, but also more confused. Reality feels fast, fragmented, unstable. And some people are describing a strange new feeling, spiritual displacement, a subtle sense that your soul is half a step out of phase. Not wrong, not broken, just shifted. Is this mass anxiety or digital burnout? Or did we in some impossible way touch something real? CERN's experiments haven't destroyed the world. They've mapped particles, discovered the Higgs boson, advanced human knowledge. But maybe, just maybe, there was a side effect that we couldn't predict. Not in space-time, but in mind-space. We often think of the soul as a mystery science can't touch, but What if the more we push into quantum mechanics, the more we graze the edge of the spiritual? And what if those strange dreams, missing memories and flickers of déjà vu aren't symptoms of confusion, but signposts? Maybe we haven't glitched. Maybe we've awakened. Or maybe we're just beginning to understand that consciousness isn't just an internal experience. It's part of the universe's architecture. And when you fire up a machine to collide the building blocks of matter, you might feel a tremor all the way in your soul. So here we are. No timelines collapsing, no portals sucking up cities, and yet everything feels just a little bit off, doesn't it? Like reality's wearing someone else's shoes, and that's kind of the punchline. CERN may not have broken anything, but maybe we're realizing how breakable reality really is. This whole theory isn't about fear, it's about curiosity, about asking if consciousness is more than meat and memory, and if a collider shaking particles can also shake our sense of self. That's something worth thinking about. So maybe we're not glitching, maybe we're just hearing the hum of a larger system, and maybe, just maybe, we've finally tuned in. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And please let me know in the comments below of videos you'd like to see next. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe. It's free and it really helps out our small channel. Okay friends, until next time, stay curious.